Powered by Riverside FM.
Is there a shadowy network of unelected bureaucrats pulling the strings of power? Join us as we delve into the controversial world of the deep state. We'll explore the theories, the evidence, and the real-world implications of this secretive force. From the halls of power to the back rooms of bureaucracy, we'll uncover the truth about this enigmatic industry. Tonight on Newsworthy, 2 words and 2 question marks.
Hi, this is Ed Locke with USA Mortgage. Buying your first home can be overwhelming, but here are 5 tips to make the process go smoother. Number 1, find a lender, me, Ed Locke, that can answer any questions you might have and help you get pre-approved. There are multiple options available based on your situation. Number 2, work with a real estate agent you can trust. Number 3, don't rush the process. Take your time and know that the process could take some time. Number 4, consider all the costs. Number 5, get a home inspection and review it with your realtor. Keep these tips in mind, budget for yourself, and you'll be that much closer to making your dream of homeownership a reality. So reach out to me at 502-680-0953. NMLS ID 448908, DAS Acquisition Company, LLC, doing business as USA Mortgage, NMLS ID 227262. This is not a commitment to lend. Additional terms and conditions apply. USA Mortgage is an equal housing opportunity.
He's alive! Have you checked the children? Get out!
You have scoured the podcast world and finally found us, Newsworthy with Steve and Jerry, where we delve into all things mysterious, macabre, or out of this world, and decide if they are truly newsworthy. 2 words and 2 question marks.
Hello, gentlemen. Welcome to the show. So we have our guest with us today, Clay Davis. Clay, welcome back to the show. We love having you here, Clay.
Thanks, guys. Hi, Steve, Brett, Jerry. Good to be back with you guys. Thanks for having me back on.
And I'm just going to be honest. This episode, we could probably talk for 2 hours on. We're not, because we spent an hour and a half before we decided to go on the show, just being on a soapbox. If you want to see what happens on the show before the show, come find us at Twitch. We'd love to have you. It's Newsworthy with Steve and Jerry. It's real easy to find. Join us at Twitch. Share, like, click the buttons. You know how that all works. When people say that helps their algorithms, it does. Brett has started putting things on YouTube. Check those out. They're usually live by Sunday. Yeah. It's just a visual of what we're doing here in the studio. Again, click, like, smash, whatever. All those things. Those work, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I was telling that, I think I was talking about this, maybe it was last week or the week before. I've never been on an episode with Clay.
Really?
Every episode that Clay has been on, I've been either, like, I think the Freemasons one, I was about to take the FE, so I was taking that next morning, so I couldn't do it. And then the last one,
in Florida.
I was in Florida. That's what it was. Yeah, the JFK episode.
That's right. We were lamenting the fact that you chose freaking vacation over hanging out with 3 awesome people.
I would have brought my laptop.
Clay, what do you think about people that are part-time? Gosh.
As a manager, I'm glad to have them.
Right?
They're useful.
Oh man! So
Brett, I could have swore we've done a show before. Maybe we didn't, man.
Never.
Didn't we do a UFO? Didn't we? Weren't you there when we did the Colonel what's his face there with the box of
Area 51, Roswell.
Yeah.
Oh, you're on the. I guess we did that.
Yeah. We did one.
I could have swore we didn't do one together.
I'm planning a trip in April to go to Roswell, just so y'all know.
No way.
Yeah, I mean, my son lives in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Yeah.
And we're going to, so right now, if you fly with Allegiant, which comes with its own, like, parachute, you can fly from Lexington to Vegas for $68.
What?
So, yeah. So,
I'm glad you got pilot skills too, man, just in case, you know.
And it comes with a complimentary life insurance policy.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, something like that. It's like, I've looked it up. It's with all the fees. Of course, there's a lot of fees, but the fees and all that, we can get out there for about $400 for two of us. And we're going to rent a car. We're going to go see him in Scottsdale. And then we're going to take the 8-hour drive from Scottsdale over to Roswell. I'm not going out to that area without going to Roswell. So, Jerry?
Yes.
We understood in the pre-show that you could barely contain yourself, that your hero, Donald Trump, won the election last night.
Absolutely.
And I bring that up
so hard to do
because it does have an effect on what we're talking about tonight. That's the only reason I bring it up. But it's also very big. We asked you to vote. The people responded and you voted, regardless of who you voted for. So,
how many ended up voting, if they said? Was it a record number? Probably.
Oh, I'm sure. You know,
about 140 million, between 140 150 million.
No.
That's right. Over half. That is.
We have 168 million registered voters in this country.
That's it? Out of 370 million people?
Well, I mean, how many are kids and illegal immigrants? And
well, that doesn't matter if you're a Democrat. No,
but no, I'm actually
I'm sorry.
The 100.
You're cracking up.
We're waiting for this show, I swear. Save it for Twitch.
I'm sorry. I broke Clay. That's beautiful. I love it. That's a beauty right there.
My bad.
Listen, we have a Democrat at this table.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll be real.
Sorry, Jerry.
Sorry, Jerry.
A Democrat?
Yeah, I'll go get you a treat.
Here is how unfactual these guys are. I have voted for less liberals or the same. Actually, for Steve, less. Voted for less Democrats or liberals than he has in his entire life. Because my grand total is 0. So it's less than or equal to yours as well, Brett. But here, I'm the raging liberal.
I'm just kidding.
Jerry,
no, you're not.
I think you're still the voice of reason.
I voted for the same amount of liberals as you.
Clay is absolutely right. You are, sir, the voice of reason, and we appreciate it. And our listeners appreciate you.
No, I think it's awesome.
I can't tell you how many people come to me after listening to our podcast and say, you know that Jerry guy? I don't like what he has to say, but I'm glad he's there.
Well, it makes me research a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely, because Jerry always says,
I'm like, all right, Jerry's going to pick this apart.
Hold on. It makes either one of you guys research, because every time I ask you to back up anything that you're saying, it's immediate silence and I get nothing. It goes back years with you. It goes back like 7-8 months with you, Mr. Brett. Not one response ever.
Sometimes you just have to trust your gut.
The best response I've got is from Brett, who's his last one I loved. He come back finally and said, YouTube deleted all the videos. That's the only response I've got.
It's possible.
Wow. So anyway,
I'm going to add one clarifier.
Sure, go ahead.
When I said 168 million,
yeah,
that was the registered number in 2020. I think last week it was you and I was talking about why did the number of registered voters go down from 2020 to 2022? It went from 168 million to 162 million. The only thing I could figure out was it was not a presidential election.
Yeah, right. And
right.
I think
numbers are always down for that.
Because when I was,
do you go unregistered to vote?
Well, I
don't think so.
They removed, if you'll remember, there was a large push around the country to remove people from the voter rolls that
were inactive or something.
Were inactive, dead, whatever that had been on there and didn't belong on there.
Well, but it
So
wasn't
that,
new
maybe
in
that
2000.
contributed to it.
Well, maybe, but it wasn't new in 2022. When you go back and look at the last 20 years, it happens every non-presidential election. The
Yeah.
number of
Interesting.
registered voters goes down.
So one thing I was thinking of was just people die.
Yeah.
Right, and then
Mhm.
the
More
younger,
so in those 2
and
years?
no, I'm just saying, like, before we looked at the chart, people had died, and then the younger generation that is getting up to
Doesn't
voting
bother
age.
registering until.
Right. That's kind of what I was thinking.
Probably.
But the way your chart looked, it seemed like it's every presidential election, like you were saying.
But that would go along with what you're saying.
Yeah.
There's not enough to motivate them to register until the presidential election.
I think this was the first presidential election since I've been at voting age that I've been able to vote.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
You're that young?
No, I've not been able to vote for the last two because of, I think one was like my address was wrong.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
My
so
daughter-
I didn't register for the new address I had.
Well, in Kentucky, that's a very hard thing to do. In certain states that doesn't have, I mean, we have very strict voting rules here.
Which is good. I'm all for it.
Oh, me too.
100%.
So
I shouldn't be voting. Yeah, anyways.
My daughter couldn't vote. She had lost her wallet, didn't have a driver's license. Has applied to get all this back, but didn't have it. Called and asked, and they're like, sorry. She was told, you will not be allowed to vote.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, I don't know about you guys. What do you think? What do you think about the world? Well, tonight's topic is Brett's been super excited. I know Clay is excited or he wouldn't be here. Clay's got the best job in the world. He can say,
Yes, he does.
because you have access to a calendar. He's like, hey, I really want to talk about that. So he comes on in and he does his research. We love having Clay. Clay,
for sure,
we absolutely appreciate you being here.
I wasn't on that.
You guys bring me in on the best topics anyway, man. I love it. You all reserve the best stuff for me, and I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
The JFK episode was phenomenal.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
I'm so upset I missed out.
That was a banger.
No, because we gave you the option. We were going to let you.
I said I would get my computer. I have my computer, actually.
See?
I'm pretty sure I promised.
See? Listen to him.
And that was more than you were willing to do. We
Hell
asked you
no.
if you were willing to take yours on vacation. Nope.
Nope. Absolutely
no.
not. See, and most people don't even know I went on vacation. 2 weeks ago, I went on vacation.
You told them last week.
Yeah,
when you come
and went on a cruise, man. It was amazing. It was the most. Okay, so I am officially an empty nester, the wife and I. And last week, or when we went on vacation, was absolutely the most relaxing vacation I've ever had as an adult. I can't tell you how excited that was. Like, I love to cruise. This is like my 10th cruise that I've been on. And I was excited because we went to new places, but I would have been just as content to stay on the ship. It was just that relaxing, that awesome. But we're not going to talk about that. Tonight, man, I can't. I got to tell you guys this story. I'm sorry. I wasn't going to say it, but I got to tell you. So, when I went to get dinner tonight, because we always have dinner before the show,
right.
I came home and you guys seen it. In the bathroom, there was a spider that was coming down the wall. I don't know if y'all saw it or not. My wife told me to take the spider outside instead of killing it. She's a big soft. I don't know if you know. She told me to take it out. So I did. I almost didn't make it back in time for the show because we had drinks and good dinner. It was wonderful. Found out he's a web designer. It was great. We're going out again next week, just so you know.
Dude, you had all friggin' week.
Dude.
All week.
Dude.
I'm about to say, you were on a cruise last week, but no, we did that show last week.
I thought I had raised the bar for the dad jokes the last time I was on, and I've come to find out that really was not the case at all. Not at all.
It just got lowered dramatically.
Yeah.
We're talking about the younger generation. So I'm pretty sure most of the younger generation would identify with me. I can't get anywhere without a GPS.
Really?
Anywhere. So I actually accidentally changed the GPS to mail a couple weeks ago.
Mail?
What's it saying?
It says it's around here somewhere. Keep driving.
I like that.
I
like that.
remember when Garmin's were an actual thing. Truck drivers still use them because they go to all these places. But for the most part, most people use their phone now.
I used to have a Garmin.
Yeah, me too.
Yep.
And you could download voices for your Garmin.
Yes.
And the funniest one I had was a Bigfoot voice, and it would just be like, and it wouldn't tell you anything.
Never heard that one.
It wouldn't tell you anything. And if you missed a turn, you know how it always like, make a turn, go back, U-turn. It would just scream at you, and it was so frustrating and so mad.
I'm never letting my kids use GPS when they're learning. I'm serious. Like it crippled my ability to have any directional. Like seriously, like I have no ability to remember. Like it took me like 6 months to figure out where to go in Harrisburg.
Think of all the phone numbers.
Terrible.
Think of all the phone numbers we used to memorize. Yeah. And we don't even have the capacity anymore.
We don't even know we're on half the time.
Yeah,
I know
mine.
I remember my first phone number. My very first phone number.
Really?
269-2748.
Wow.
I remember my first phone number.
I remember my home number
because it's the number Mom and Dad had their entire life.
Yeah.
So
I remember my grandfather. My grandfather's been gone 20 years. I remember his phone number, 234-1702. I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
It's
back
crazy.
To the top.
It's crazy to think that we can remember that shit, but we can't remember what we had for breakfast yesterday.
But back then, as Clay was saying, back then you had to actually punch the number in. Or how many times did you actually?
You had to remember it. Oh, because I remember. So there's some things that I remember back in the day that I remembered from a previous. Like I remember
from a previous life.
No, from like a previous time. Like because people always say, "Oh, you can't remember anything before you're 2." I swear, I had an argument with my wife. I remember when my sister was born, and I was 1.5 years old.
The odds are you remember people telling you about it.
I know, that's what she says. I'm telling you, I remember it.
The way the human brain works, and they figured this out, which is really crazy, and it is why humans are the worst for actually recounting things from memory, is we don't remember the actual event. We remember the last time we remembered the event.
Right.
And however that was is how we remember it was. Which, this is what it is.
Like I'm rereading Harry Potter right now. And so the movies are very like influential as far as my memory. So I'm like rereading it, I'm like, oh, I forgot that happened. You know what I mean?
Oh.
But anyways.
Back on track. Question for you guys.
Yeah.
You two. If King Kong went to Hong Kong and played ping pong and died, what are they going to put on his coffin? A lid. Yes.
Pretty good.
I saw this live
stream. Don't laugh at that. I expect that from Brett. I expect better from you, Clay. Come on.
Yeah, all right.
Says a man that took a freaking spider out on a date. And apparently slept with it. It lasted so long. Mr.
At least it wasn't a baby carrot. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, let me tell that one.
Oh my God! Yeah, if you're listening, you need to tune in to our Twitch. We're at like 7:30 to 8:30 on Wednesday nights.
Yeah, every time.
Depending.
It lasts longer than the actual podcast does.
Yeah.
So, Clay, what you got, man? You gotta save the day.
Here it is, guys. After an unsuccessful harvest, why did the farmer decide to try a career in music?
Oh, jeez. Why?
Because he had a ton of sick beats.
I like it. I like it.
You know what's not fair? He's had weeks to look at this stuff.
You didn't like that?
Dude, I 10 minutes before this shit started.
Oh, I got you.
Listen, that just reminds me of the song Ice Cube, Jacking for Beats. I love it. Anything that reminds me of Ice Cube, I'm on board.
Speaking of Twitch, one of our listeners wants to know what's in the water. They said we're apparently talking about King Kong playing ping pong with his ding dong.
Well, it's not water, technically. It is cold, sweet red.
It's Blanton's.
Imported Modelo.
Oh.
Listen, I'm all for American-made products, Brewed right in the heart of Frankfort, Kentucky.
There you go.
That's right. I ain't getting no imported.
Game Hitter 2006. Thanks for the follow, by the way.
It's awesome.
Absolutely.
We appreciate that, for real.
So, are we going to get to the show?
Tonight's show is a deep one.
No pun intended.
And it is one that Brett has been excited to cover. I've kind of tiptoed around and wanted to cover.
We've touched on it
a few times. Jerry wanted to cover, and it was exciting enough that Clay had to be here for this show. So we're going to get into it. And the question that we're going to ask and we're going to explore tonight is there a deep state in Washington? Is there a cabal of people behind the scenes that are unelected, that are non-appointed, that continue between administration and administration and administration, that really have the power in Washington? And I think the way I put it on our Facebook post, and the way I put it on Facebook was a group of people who are unelected, unappointed, that literally have all the power in Washington. Now, I'll clarify, because my definition of that is very simple. Let me see. Here it is. This is what I posted on Facebook. For those of you who follow, our Facebook page is newsworthy with one question mark, because that's all Facebook will allow. But it says, tomorrow we go to the polls and elect a new president. Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. For years, conspiracy theorists have claimed that the true power in Washington belongs to the unappointed bureaucrats, the military-industrial complex, the lobbyists, the FBI, and the CIA. That is my definition of the deep state. Who has the real power? We see a front. We see the presidency. We see senators. What's happening behind when the doors close?
Did you all see? I think we talked about it last week. Did you all see the Trump Rogan podcast at all?
I saw pieces of it. I want to watch the whole thing. Let me interrupt you real quick. I want to get Clay's definition and see if he thinks that I'm right or if we need to add something. Clay?
All right. So this is a really complicated sort of question, because there's no clear agreement on what the definition of this term deep state actually means. So some people can deny it by redefining the term or putting it in a kind of a narrow way. Or some people can say, of course, it exists by framing it in a completely different way from that. So I would say generally, when we're talking about the deep state, what we're talking about is a massive government that survives beyond administrations, that is not responding to the politics of the people. This belongs not to a particular party mechanism, but it survives across parties and across administrations. And of course, this is seen most easily and most readily in the intelligence services, because they are so unaccountable to the public. Everything that they do at the NSA, the CIA, is typically classified by default. And unless someone actually decides to make it not classified, then we actually might get to find out something. According to Ed Snowden, even emails to colleagues about where to meet up for lunch are classified. And while this is not necessarily designed to be that way, that's not necessarily the intention behind the policy. The result of this policy is that people in the intelligence community learn very quickly that they can hide any embarrassing information, they can hide any inconvenient details behind these barriers of classification. While these classification policies typically evolve during times of crisis and typically during times of war with legitimate enemies of the state, these structures do not dissipate once the crisis is over. And that's where some of the complications start to arise.
Yeah, I agree.
In the intervening periods that there's no crisis, the people in these positions, they think about how they can use these rules for their own policy benefits or to build up their influence, their budgets, their clout, their own influence, and they get better and better at this with each passing year. Each time you get a new administration, it's a new round in the game. And eventually, the people who are the greatest experts at understanding and abusing these rules, the best bureaucrats, are not sitting in the White House. They're not sitting in Congress, because those guys come and go as the years pass, and they win elections and they lose elections. It's the people who sit there for 30 years or more in these agencies with their hands on the lever the whole time.
See,
And that's what the deep state is, sort of in a larger sense, but it's not limited to government. These people are also contractors in private sort of war-making roles, whether they're defense contractors or intelligence contractors. These are people at think tanks, groups that are designed to influence policies, sort of war-making think tanks like the Atlantic Council. And the question ultimately is, when we allow this to happen for a long enough period of time and they become expert enough in steering our government across parties, it doesn't matter whether the Republicans are in office, it doesn't matter whether Democrats are in office, they all respond the same. They all eventually get to the point of saying, yes, when enough pressure is brought to bear on them. And perhaps a good example of this is when the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, flip-flopped his position against renewing the FISA surveillance and his position against continued funding of the conflict in Ukraine immediately after a meeting with the CIA. Whether they had dirt on him or what, I don't know, but he caved once the agency's pressure was brought down upon him. And
you
it
brought up
raises
the
a question.
CIA, Clay. Let me cut you off for just a second. Let me just ask you a question. You brought up the CIA. Did you know that in John F. Kennedy's tenure as president, the very night that we got YouTube imagery showing missiles on Cuban soil, 103 miles
What
from
type of
Miami.
imagery?
YouTube, the spy plane.
I thought you said YouTube.
No, YouTube.
I'm like, what the hell?
Spy plane.
YouTube.
Yes, go ahead.
The only person here not drinking thought anyway. That night, instead of going to his war room, instead of going to huddle up with all the people that would be important in making this decision, do you know what he did? He went to a cocktail party in his neighborhood. Do you know why? Because everyone who he trusted, everyone who is in what Clay just now described, was at this cocktail party. And that's the advice of the people he took. Not his generals that were waiting at the Oval Office. What is the Dulles? What was his first name?
Alan?
The director of the CIA.
Yes.
Alan Dulles. Thank you, Clay. I knew you had it. You're the man. Alan Dulles was
One
there.
of many men.
Yeah. There was a whole group of people there who were in the know. And his main objective was to know how long we had known they'd been putting them there before he done something. Now, those people that were in that cocktail meeting were all about invasion. They wanted Cuba so bad they could taste it. They'd already tried to kill Castro 42 times. Oh,
I've got a question.
Well,
My question is of Clay, because his definition and your definition of deep state differed a bit.
a bit.
When you were talking about who it was almost identical. Unelected people pulling the strings behind the scenes. Here's my question. Your definition was that they were the people with the real power. Is that also your belief, Clay?
I don't know that they have the real power, but I think the problem is the power that they have is unchecked.
100% agree with Clay. I don't think it's necessary to go as far as what you're saying. I think that you're trying to get too narrow with it.
Well, here's the thing.
And furthermore, it raises the question of who really has the most power in our entire society. Is it the voter? and at least in theory, the politicians that are supposed to be carrying out the people's will? Or
Right.
is it this larger constellation of influential groups and actors who are able to subvert and shape the decisions and influence the decisions of these congressmen and presidents and leaders? That's the bigger question. And
Go
I'm
ahead,
going to,
Brett.
here in a little while, I'm going to take it out a step further as to who I think the real deep state is here after we have a little bit of conversation, because I think there's two wings, and I'm of the mind that one of them we probably need to find a different term for, because I think there is one that really is the deep state, and
I
I think
think you
there's
and I are on the same path.
yeah. So
And just because Jerry's here, because I love Jerry, but he always says, "Bring me names, bring me receipts," as Dan Bongino would say. I got receipts tonight. So, but Brett had something he wanted to say.
So I just wanted to bring up so one thing that came up in the Trump-Rogan interview was one of the first questions that Rogan asked Trump was, how was that first day of being president? Like, what was that like? Because Trump becoming president, he has to appoint all these people. And one thing he
It's
said
like hundreds. It's like thousands.
Right, he said it ended up being, like, because he probably appoints, hundreds to, like you said, 1,000 people.
No,
And
it's
those
3,000 or 4,000.
And those people appoint other people, right? So I mean, he's ended up. I think he said, I don't know if this is actually correct, but he said he ends up appointing specifically like 10,000 people. But he was saying that he had to listen to a lot of the people that had been there. So these people are in his ear saying, "Hey, this is the guy you should appoint. This is the guy you should appoint." And he said one of the things he regrets was listening to a lot of those people, which hopefully he will, since he's won the presidency this time, he won't make the same mistake again.
Well, on that same Joe Rogan podcast, I have to cast some aspersions of doubt on whether he's learned his lessons or not, because on that same podcast he was talking about what a great guy Pompeo is, and Pompeo's a piece of garbage.
Oh,
and
he talked about a lot of Democrats that he thinks are like
Pompeo's not a Democrat.
Yeah, he's a Republican.
It was part of his administration.
Yeah, and America has come out in several polls and said that they have harbored tremendous disdain for this man. He is literal human garbage.
He appointed him as Secretary of State. Is that not correct?
That is correct.
Right. Yeah.
So he's not a Democrat. I'm not saying he's good
also,
or bad.
He's also former director of the CIA.
Yep.
Who admitted that the CIA's number one task is to lie, cheat, steal, and kill.
One of you mentioned earlier about, did the CIA have something on him? It made me think of something that I read when I was researching. In the 2017 interview, several weeks before Trump was inaugurated, Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer called Trump really dumb for having repeatedly criticized the CIA. Yeah. And he said, "Let me tell you, you take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you."
Look at JFK.
So, did they have something on him?
Honestly, look at Trump.
Probably not. He was Chuck Schumer. The guy that's been in Washington forever was smart enough to say, "Hey, you take on these people,
and at the Al Smith,
they're going to make you pay."
At the Al Smith dinner that Trump did, he praised Chuck Schumer as being like a good guy. He was like, "Chuck Schumer's a good guy. He has a terrible." Did you all see the Al Smith dinner at all?
No. Parts of it I did not.
He praised Chuck Schumer.
Well, here's the thing.
But Jerry, to your point, though, real quick, while we were on the topic of what Jerry was talking about, I was initially shocked and awed when Schumer made that statement, and America as a population did not, as a group, come up with a sense of complete alarm at that, because we have an agency or agencies that are supposed to answer to the President of the United States, and this guy is saying they can get you whether you're their boss or not,
or whether you have shit on them or not.
Here's a question I want to ask. So I actually work for the government. I work for the state government, but it's very similar in the fact that there are government appointed positions and there are non-government appointed. So prior to 1871, the president could select federal employees, and basically that's what they did. Was they would even go as far as selling positions,
which is a horrible idea.
Terrible. So so well, I was actually reading this article from the Huffington Post back in 2017. The writer was George Friedman, just to give credit where credit's due. He was talking about this, and he was saying that the deep state actually started in 1871, because that was when they decided that the president was not going to select federal employees.
Everyone.
Right.
Which is a stupid concept. In today's world, back then, maybe it was so limited you could do it. You can't do that.
And even for the sake of, and this is where I'm going with, and even for the sake of getting rid of what we call the deep state, I would not want to go back to this.
You can't.
Because, and he talks about it in the article, you would have to retrain everyone in every position. Basically, I mean, he would, because the new president would basically come in and take, because that's what, in the state government, that's what happens when you get a new governor. Every government appointed employee is gone. It's automatically gone, no matter what rank they have. I had a boss back. I worked as an intern back in 2015 for the Department of Insurance in the state of Kentucky. My supervisor, who was very knowledgeable at what he did, was a government appointed position. He was gone, right? So I mean, he was unemployed. I saw him. Anyways, so that's kind of what I'm getting.
But here's the way you fix that, okay? And if two little boys from Kentucky can come up with a way of fixing that, because Jerry and I have talked for years about term limits in Congress and the House of Representatives already has term limits, but in the Senate, how do you get term limits on people who make a career? Our very own Mitch McConnell is the absolute worst.
What do you mean they have term limits?
In Congress. Well, no, they don't. But I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Okay. You confused me.
I pointed at the wine. Yeah, I pointed at the bottle of wine.
There are no term limits in Congress.
But Congress and Senate have no term limits.
Right,
and we've often talked about it. If you want to
they
correct a bunch of this stuff, you enact term limits. But how do you do that? How do you make it fair? How do you know that the people coming in know what to do?
Right.
And the reason and the way you do that is you stagger the ones going out. Basically, there's no senators right now that are all 100 senators do not get elected at the same time. So you just simply say,
for sure,
from this year going forward, when you've reached X number of years, you're out.
And House of Representatives, you don't really need to worry about it because every one of them face re-election every 2 years now.
Right. So you give them 6 or 8 years, and then they're done. And the system works its way out. The same could be said for the people you're talking about, the people that know what to do in government. And quite frankly, if you know what to do in government, I'm not sure you should be there because you're not necessarily my friend.
I would totally disagree with what you're saying. You're going to take away long-term seniority for every government worker.
Also disagree.
You'll lose all the brains.
Right. I would also disagree because
no, just not government workers, not the people that's just out there doing a job.
Okay. I thought you were
talking about the people that,
like in upper management.
Yes,
so
the people that come in.
Well, upper management is already serves at the will of the administration, and they get turned over already.
Right. That's why I posed the question, really, because I think it's a tough line to balance.
It is
because I see just in this, like I said, I work for the state government. I see it. I see the importance of expertise in certain sections. Just in my own section, my boss has been there for 20 years, and he's my supervisor. Right.
If let me just ask you, if you ask your boss to save your department 20%, would he be allowed to do that?
Would he be allowed to do it?
What do you mean save?
Would he be encouraged to do it?
He can't fire 20% of the people. No,
I didn't say fire 20%.
I
said
he can't do what you said without firing 20. Well, a whole bunch of them.
I'm just saying. I'm giving an example of what I'm trying to say.
No, once you're in the state government, you're there.
Exactly.
And
part of the problem. Same thing applies to the people that Clay's talking about. These people that are in power, the people coming in and out the president, the senators, the congressmen, they don't have the ability because there's no oversight on the people that Clay's talking about.
No, there is oversight.
There isn't.
They have bullshit. They show me one person that doesn't have a boss.
Well, I can show you that everybody has a boss. But
Okay.
do they listen to the
But
boss?
here's the problem.
Or
Can
do
those
they tell
bosses-
the boss what to
Can
do?
those bosses, if the employees are not doing their assigned job that's specified in their job description, can those bosses write them up and fire them? Hell yes.
Okay,
So you may have bad bosses that are not reacting to bad employees. It is their job to do so.
Understand?
So you guys have both been leaders in retail, right?
Absolutely.
You guys have both been
All
managers.
three of us. Clay too.
What? Okay, so what is the best thing that you can do as a supervisor or manager?
Lead by example.
What's another good thing that you could do?
Lead by example is number
Figure
one.
out who knows what they're doing
Yeah, absolutely.
and ask them.
Oh, hell yeah.
And
That's-
get their
that's
expertise.
important.
It's called best practice.
Yeah, so figure out who the heck is good at their job.
And then fire them?
No,
So that's what he wants to do.
and learn from them. But this is what a good president should come in and figure out. All right, this guy's been doing this a long. This is what I would do.
You're starting too high. And here's why. The president has 4 years. The president is term limited.
Yeah.
And the president generally doesn't know about half the stuff that the people that Clay are talking about
Right.
until it becomes a problem. You see what I'm saying?
No, I see exactly what you're saying.
That's the reason.
And I'll go so far as to say, in my management experience, sometimes the employees with the most longevity are not necessarily the best employees either.
No, they could just stick it out.
Sometimes. And I guess in manufacturing, I've seen the opposite. But
Kmart was a good example of this, and Clay and I both were managers at Claymart. I just gave you the name, Clay. We were both managers at Kmart. The people, like when I took a position at Kmart, when I came into the company, my least tenured department manager was 20 years.
wow.
Yeah. So you know
They got
how
nothing
easy
to
my
prove
job
at that
was?
point.
Huh?
They got nothing to prove at that point. They
Nothing.
have no incentive to, yeah.
They're going to do their thing, and then that's it, and you're going to have to suck it up because
But
if you want
finish
something
what
else.
you started to say. How easy was your job?
My job was very easy.
Because they took care of everything for
Right.
But what it allowed for me was an opportunity to do a lot of things that were beyond the scope of what I was supposed to do.
Right.
Okay?
And I think that's what
Now,
a president
that's
would come
great.
in wanting to do.
That's great in a retail environment. What it's not great to do in an environment that directly affects the lives of citizens of other
I mean,
countries.
that's another good
And
point.
what I'm
Yeah.
getting to here, for an example, is the CIA. I can't tell you how
it.
many
They're the worst
presidents.
abusers of this. deep state.
Absolutely.
No,
And
but
I
it's
don't
like
think there's a
Would you not
person.
agree,
They want
Clay?
more.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And even more now that they're doing operations here at home as instead of just abroad, which is their purvey of operation when they were in inception, when the inception of the CIA happened, was that they were gonna bring back intelligence from abroad. Well, not only are they bringing back intelligence from abroad, a lot of times they're creating ops out there. They're actually creating scenarios that happen out there and making things happen instead of just reporting back what the situation is. And they're also doing things here at home now. It's unacceptable.
I'm not a Democrat. Okay. I'm not afraid to admit that.
No.
But they literally came to JFK, and we'll go back to the Bay of Pigs. We'll go back to Cuba, the Cuban Missile Crisis. The CIA came to the president of the United States of America and said, "Hey, we have a plan that will galvanize the American citizenry to authorize an invasion of Cuba to take care of these missiles and to take care of the communist threat." Do you know what that plan was, Clay? The
What was it?
plan that these geniuses constructed, these geniuses with zero oversight. And yeah, they have a boss. But did they really? Because they operated
Their
well.
boss was more crooked than they were.
Exactly. Thank you.
In this case.
Thank you. They wanted to bomb Miami, Atlanta, and
Yeah.
Boston and blame it on the Cubans so that we would be galvanized to go to war against
And
Cuba.
This is why so many people have distrust in like things like 9/11.
Right.
Everything. Distrust in everything the government says.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've talked about the whole alien stuff. Just even, and that seems so minute compared to some of this stuff. In my opinion.
Okay, I agree with you because we have no clue about what's up in space. We are so dastardly freaking evil here on Earth that should be the last of our concern. As much as I love talking about it and love getting into it.
No, for sure. I mean, nuclear war is way more of a risk than
aliens. So, Clay, what do you think?
Yeah, I want to hear what Clay says.
Clay, tell us about who, if you could put your finger on some of the deep state people today, and you can just back it up to agency. Who do you think would you consider as part of the deep state today?
Well, I mean, immediately you think the NSA and the CIA. I think the FBI to some degree, especially here lately, they've been acting in ways that they previously didn't act and inserting themselves into political situations. But as far as like the real deep state, let me just throw this out here. People talk about two things when they use the term deep state. And I think one of them is legitimate and the other one is absolutely a real thing, but it deserves a different name or a different term. Some people, when they say deep state, they mean the vast bureaucratic state that doesn't turn over every time there's a new administration. You know, the people who keep the lights on, the career bureaucrats and the government officials, as we've previously discussed. And that thing does have a lot of power in it, and it's not well regulated, and that's very problematic. So, but that's one version, the career bureaucrats. I think these people pose a huge problem that and are perhaps a layer of they're a layer of the deep state, but maybe we should come up with a different name for them. I don't think they're the true deep state. The true deep state has a central element that makes it very distinct. And that central element that makes the deep state distinct is a thing called black budgets.
Ooh, yes.
These are budgets that are generated off the books. And the reason that that's the central defining element that makes the deep state, that makes that the deep state, is that it excludes the deep state from the control of the entities that the founders decided would be involved in the checks and balances. In other words, the Congress has no control over the budget of the CIA, or I'm sorry, the Congress has control over the budget of the CIA, but only the official budget. It does not know where the black budget is or where it comes from. It's not written down anywhere that Congress can access. Likewise with the courts, they have no access to it. So there are lots of ways that a clandestine organization can generate a black budget. Having done so, it becomes a special problem. So if you imagine someone ascends to the office of the Director of Central Intelligence Agency, it could be anybody, and he or she says, all right, I'm the director of the CIA, and I want to know how this agency really works. What they're really going to get is a list of all the stuff that's on the books. Excuse me. They are not going to get a list of any of the things that aren't on the books.
Not until they're trusted anyway.
And that is, to me, I feel like that's where the actual roots and the real problem of the deep state lies, because those black budgets curtail bosses, supervisors, leaders from actually holding these people accountable. They can generate these funds. We know going all the way back to the 80s when they were charging $1,200 for a hammer and $800 for a toilet seat. Right. Those funds were going straight into these black budgets. And there's also been several people, I'm not going to go deep into this rabbit hole. There are a lot of people who feel like the funneling of narcotics has been another avenue for these people to
we know that. Look at
generate
Iran
revenue.
Contra.
Clay,
What's
you don't
that?
have to go deep into it. I'll open the can and jump right in. We know for a fact that a CIA has worked with the cartel to just flood our country with drugs because they get a cut to fund these black projects. We know for a fact that the crack epidemic of the 80s was a direct result of the CIA flooding New York and the big major cities with this drug, and they couldn't have done that without some sort of government because somebody's going to catch on to that.
Right.
And even after we hope they stop that, we know they were doing the same in other countries.
Right.
Ollie North and the Iran-Contra affairs. This is
Prime example.
Hidden
This is
information.
And then you take that on top of you take the like you said, the $800 for a hammer. That's stuff that can be traced. The stuff that the CIA and the FBI, and I'll go ahead and link the FBI and some of these other organizations to, like you say, let's pick a country that is third world but making a good economy, and let's flood it with these drugs and make an absolute killing.
Or weapons.
Yep. And make an absolute killing on this.
Now, what we've talked about goes back a few years.
All the way to Eisenhower.
If you think this has stopped, according to the Wikipedia article on, hold on one second, forget the name of the friggin' article I'm on, list of CIA controversies.
that's like 18 freaking pages from the last 10 years.
In 2009, on July 10th, 2009, House Intelligence Subcommittee Chairwoman Representative Jan Schalowski announced the termination of an unnamed CIA covert program described as very serious in nature, which had been kept from secret from Congress for 8 years. CIA Director Leon Panetta ordered an internal investigation, like he didn't know, to determine why Congress had not been informed and, in fact, had been lied to about the program. By the way, the program to this day still remains unnamed. The American public have never been told, but we did know that in 2009, they were still pulling the same crap. So if you think this ended back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, you're sadly mistaken.
Oh, no,
it didn't.
I don't think anybody does believe that. I think that one thing that I saw was if they polled the American public asking who believed that there was a deep state. I think
I can tell you, anybody who knows politics.
More than half of Americans believe that there's a deep state.
Well,
in October 2019, a YouGov poll found that 70% of Republicans, 38% of independents, and 13% of Democrats agreed that there was a deep state trying to overthrow Trump. That's almost 50% that thought he was trying to overthrow Trump. The number of Americans from the polls that I saw that believe in a deep state is somewhere around 60 to 70% overall. When you don't define it, just notice this one.
Whoa, that was loud. Sorry.
Pull the Jerry.
I've been pulling Jerry. I don't know what to do with my hands.
Very demonstrative with those hands.
Anyway, back to what I was talking about the night that Kennedy had conversations.
That's a huge one.
It's a huge one.
Yeah.
You know what? Here's the thing. All of the people that were at that cocktail party lived within a block and a half of each other. If that's not, and most of the people that were at that party were unsupervised, unappointed, and they had immense intelligence power.
So did you all? You guys didn't watch the entire. You guys need to watch the entire Rogan Trump interview. This is the reason why I'm bringing this up for a reason.
Well, Clay apparently did. So Clay's going to bust you up.
So I hope he does. So he talked. So Rogan obviously is a big conspiracy guy.
Absolutely,
super big. He asked him about
one of these days he'll get numbers like us, but until then,
listen, Rogan. If you want some lessons on how to run a podcast, just email us. We got our email at the end of every show. Just reach out to us. But seriously, he asked Trump. He said, "Why did you not release JFK?"
I saw this part of it.
You did see this, and Trump basically said was, whether he meant to or not, he basically confirmed everything that we believe. Because he said that there was too many. He said people advised him that it would be too big of an issue, that people were still alive that would have been convicted,
right? Associated
that
with
were associated with this. What sounds like he didn't say it outright, but it sounds like a cover up. And he basically said that he said it was time to release it. He basically told Rogan that he was going to release it if he became president, but it just sounded very because he didn't say that. Oh, well, there was nothing to it. Like, but
he tiptoed all the way around, saying, yeah, there's a whole lot of shit there that we did, and it needs to be released now, but I couldn't at the time because people were still alive.
So do you think he will this term?
I hope so. He said he would.
I think he will. I think
he'll get somebody in his ear again and say probably shouldn't because.
But why would he listen to
it? Exactly. And this is why I think he will, because I think he was really trying to get Rogan to support him. Because I honestly think Rogan is like what I can't remember how much more, but way more influential than CNN, which is one of the most influential.
It's not even a competition.
Not even a competition.
He gets more views than CNN and MSNBC combined.
Right.
CNN, MSNBC,
ABC,
and Fox News.
Yeah. Right. And Fox News. And so I think that his support was very critical, and I think that Trump was trying to win his support in this interview. I think that he will fulfill his I think it wasn't a promise, but he said he would release it. Yeah. I think that he will.
Well, in his defense, he already released far more than anyone else ever has. No, it was like 80-90% of it he released.
The only thing I think he said he only saw like 50% of the file.
There's very little left that wasn't released.
The primary player who played an integral role in convincing Trump not to release the remainder of it was Mike Pompeo, the human piece of garbage that I was talking about earlier.
So back to this Rogan thing. And I know that Rogan has more listeners than CNN, MSNBC, and Fox.
Just on this one podcast?
Just imagine if he actually listened to us, how many listeners he could have. Just saying.
On X, between him and Elon Musk's post of the Trump interview, over 70 million views.
Yeah. I mean...
70?
That's half of the people that voted. A little more than half of the people.
That's not even fathomable. If you really think about it, that's an unfathomable amount of people. Well, and that is with... So did you all hear about the fact that YouTube basically, like, it wasn't that they would not... So if you looked up Rogan Trump interview, it would not pop up.
Oh, you know who owns YouTube, by the way? Google.
Oh, I'm sure.
The one you're trying to keep.
The lefties. I'm trying to look up.
Hold on.
Hey, what did Fauci say about the
If you looked up what on YouTube?
So if you looked up the Rogan Trump interview, it would not pop up.
Let me ask you.
It would just be a bunch of shorts. Hey, you couldn't get the full interview.
Hey, Clay. Let's get back on topic.
Until I don't know if it's still, but Rogan was talking about it in the week after.
Let me ask you about
the biggest podcast of all time.
Besides us.
Besides.
Okay. Let me ask you guys about a couple of names and see if you recognize these names and if whether or not you would consider them amongst the deep state. Because I also associate the deep state with the military-industrial complex. Wouldn't you agree, Jay? Or Clay?
Absolutely. Going back to Eisenhower's warning back in 1961.
All the way back to Eisenhower, who was a brilliant man, who was a war general, who knew the ins and outs about intelligence and how great it was to be able to be utilized in a time of war. What about Kathy Warden? Do you know that name? I'll give you another one.
Yep.
I'll give you another one. How about, and I'm going to butcher his last name, so if I'm saying it wrong, please tell me. James D. Taslett.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of him. Do you know what James D. Taslett's job description is?
Never heard of him.
He is the chairman, president, and CEO of Lockheed Martin.
Well, there you go.
Absolutely. Do you know
He's
what he does on his spare time when he's not hanging out with his 20-year-old wife?
Plays
deep
golf.
state cuck.
Something to do with his girlfriend carrots, if I remember correctly.
No.
Those would be baby carrots. My guy, James D. Taslett, is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations.
Foreign relations. There you go.
How about that?
There you go.
Why in the world would we allow one of our biggest, and I'm not knocking this guy, okay? I'm really not. I'm just calling him out because, hey, if you're able to do this and that, great, but let's have some clarification. Let's have some transparency about what you're doing. I had to dig to find that he's a member of the Council of Foreign Relations.
And yeah, it's just
Why would
weird.
Why
What
would
do
we
they
want
do?
a member of
What do they do?
basically
Lockheed Martin?
What does Council of Foreign Relations do?
Council of Foreign Relations is a advisory panel.
Yeah.
That it's a think tank, like Clay says.
Is it a think tank?
Yeah, for the most part. It's a bunch of smart people who own big companies who look around the world and say, hey, where can we lead? And I'm paraphrasing here.
It literally says think tank. But now you look it up.
Right. Where we can look around the world, we can say, hey, where would our products fit best in here and how can we get the government to pay for them? You know, the second part of that probably isn't in the brochure. I'm just saying. Would you agree, Clay?
I would probably agree with that.
Yeah. Kathy Warden, a little bit clear, but Kathy J. Warden, an American business executive, chief executive officer, and guess what she's the president of? Northrop Grumman. Again, these are the people on the military industrial complex
That's huge.
that absolutely that grow and gain and benefit. And first of all,
Right,
from military action.
Right.
for military
Right.
action, wherever it is in the world. And you know what the problem is? I hate saying that because guess what? She employs Americans. There's Americans building the equipment that she makes.
And it's not a secret that we benefit economically from being at war.
Right.
We make
Absolutely.
a lot of money being at war.
The whole reason we came out of World War I is because of World War One. We came out of the Great Depression because
we were in great shape after World War I.
Absolutely. So it's not a question of that. It's a question of when you take that knowledge from being on the World Council of whatever Foreign Affairs,
Right.
Relation.
and then you
Or
utilize that
economic
to
force.
manipulate the powers that be
Well,
to put us in that situation.
and here's
Which is what, sorry to interrupt one
Yeah,
second.
you're good, you're good.
The defense minister, what the hell was his name? Trump fired him because he said all he wanted to do was get us in more wars.
Steve Bannon.
No. Mustache guy.
Yeah.
Uh,
Short,
oh,
slim mustache. So what's his name, Clay? Bolton.
John Bolton.
Oh, Bold. Yeah.
Trump claimed that he was not part of the military industrial complex, but doing the same exact thing of what you're talking about.
John
Trump fired him.
Right after Donald Trump fired him,
He wrote a book.
he wrote a book. And he said, Trump said about John Bolton, I didn't like the little squirrely bastard, but when he was with me, nobody talked shit because he knew we
talked
knew
about
John Bolton would drop the bombs.
He talked about it in the Rogan interview.
Yeah,
He
he
said,
did.
Bolton.
I didn't
Yeah.
want to point this guy, but everybody was saying, "Hey, this is a dude. You need to do it." And he said that in the Rogan interview. He said,
Yeah.
whenever I went to like a
People
he
were
was like,
scared of
people were
Bolton
scared.
because he didn't care a bit to drop bombs.
He didn't give a shit. I mean,
But
sorry,
John
crap.
Bolton is a direct part of what we're talking about.
Yeah,
He's
Well,
and
it's
he's,
not
ne-
direct.
he's,
If you
he's,
take
he's
the
never seen a
military
war he
industrial-
didn't like.
Yeah, exactly. If you take the military industrial complex, add a little CIA, focus in a little FBI, funnel in a whole lot of black budget money, you have the deep state.
I don't think anyone that I have ever heard would dispute what you just said.
Yeah.
Now, they
Well,
would
I thought-
dispute
yeah.
your original definition of these are the most powerful. These are the true people with power.
Well, I mean,
But in certain areas, maybe.
If you think of like these are the people that no matter who the president is, no matter what political party they're a part of, they're the ones. And that's the thing with the Trump interview is just like he had no idea who to appoint. He had people in his ear saying, "Hey, this is the guy that you need to appoint here. This is the guy you need to appoint here." And even like if you even look at like some of the people who like Mark Cuban, who was very pro Kamala Harris, she was like, "Oh, if Trump offers me a job, I'm going to take it." Like,
here's the thing,
it's
Brent. Let me take that a step further. And Clay, please correct me if I'm wrong. When you have, as an example, from Trump to Biden, now back to Trump, when you have a president like Donald Trump who has enacted policies based on what people have told him,
whichever president's going
whichever it does,
right.
But I'm using these as a recent example.
So I don't think Biden was enacting his own policy.
And then you bring Biden in, and he doesn't change particular policies for whatever reason. You can pretty much start connecting the dots that those policies, because there's not a bigger difference between Trump and Biden. Those are two iconically different and opposing people.
Did we lose Clay?
Oh, Clay. We may have lost Clay. He'll come back. But you those people are.
Can he come back?
Yeah, diametrically.
Looks like I'm frozen up over here.
Diametrically opposed. When those policies stay the same, you can start tracing the dots back to the deep state, in my opinion.
I agree.
Because those
maybe. But here's the point. We're talking about the military-industrial complex, right?
Yes.
Earlier, we were talking about how many should be gotten rid of and how many kept. How much of our military do we want the new president to fire and hire his boys? Isn't the military something where we absolutely have to have a ton of experience when it comes to generals and the people leading the military?
This is one thing that Trump talks about, because if you look at the military enrollment is very down.
Part of that's planned.
Very down. Well, I don't know if it's planned or not.
We're not hurting for people to sign up for the military.
You say that. I was talking to, so when I was a teacher, I was talking to some of the recruiters that would come talk to my class, and they said that they were very down. Like,
Clay's back.
Hundreds and hundreds of people. Like, they were used to, like, 1,200.
I lost your sound glue, Clay. Sorry.
No. Make sure he's back.
Are you back, Clay?
Welcome back. Yeah, we see him.
Yeah, I know I see him, but I can't hear him.
Yeah.
Can't hear you, Clay.
I don't hear him at all. No, I still don't hear him.
But we're not talking about feet on the.
So this is.
We're talking about the head dudes, the big guy.
No, I'm not talking about anything. I'm talking about enrollment. So people, like young people enrolling in the military.
Okay, but what's it got to do with the deep state?
Well, I'm not saying anything with the deep state. I'm just saying that enrollment in the military is down.
Okay, I'm not disagreeing with you, but my point is we're talking about how to fix these problems, and earlier we're talking about how many should go and stay. When it comes to the military, how many generals do we want to fire and hire brand new guys with no experience?
Well, none. So here's an example. I'm not even. I really hope. I don't want to make this political, but there was an admiral that was appointed with Biden's administration. That was trans.
He was appointed as admiral? He was not an admiral already?
Technically, she was appointed as admiral.
I mean, I guess my question is, what were they before? What position?
From what I understand, nothing. I don't know. I don't know.
You can't do that.
I don't know. I don't know.
Military does not.
But the first female admiral was a biological man. Right? Am I? I really hope you. I mean,
I didn't look at this.
Dispute me if you want, but
the first admiral, the first 100.
The first woman admiral.
A woman admiral
was a biological man.
Maybe I have no clue.
Well, it was, but anyways, Clay, can you?
I can't hear Clay.
I really wish Clay would talk.
Yeah, Clay, we need you, Clay.
He's shaking his head.
No, me too.
He's trying to talk.
And I see his mouth moving, but I can't hear anything he says. His mic is messed up somehow.
Well, I don't know. We lost him.
Your mouth is moving, but I can't.
I don't think it's him. I think it's because we have to reboot the whole thing.
I really hope we don't have to do
shouldn't.
that.
If I guess leave and come back before and didn't have to.
Yeah, he should. He should be able to log in.
True fact.
I don't know if it's on his end or.
I don't know.
I really hate
The first female admiral in the Navy was Eileen Durrick in 1972.
No, that's definitely not her.
Well, I'm completely off of
according to Wikipedia.
No. You're
the point is, even if you take it away from the military, there are people throughout our government who, and Jerry, you're the worst.
I'm the worst at what?
No, you're the best.
You're the best.
Here's the problem. Here's what I'm saying.
I just said a bunch of bullshit, and apparently I was wrong.
No, what I'm saying is, when it comes to the deep state, it isn't necessarily about the who. It's about who is getting the ear and directing the traffic of the people who are in power.
Right, and
that's because I don't have any power doesn't mean I don't know where the bodies are.
And I'm really just thinking about, like, if I was in leadership, I come into the presidency, I don't have any experience in the presidency, obviously, because I'm coming in new.
Hang on one second. Clay, you back? Hang on one second. Before you say anything, I'm going to pause. And that way we can all get back because I don't want to finish. I don't want to finish without play.
Yeah.
So we're gonna pause right here. All right, here we go. We're back. Woo! Are you there, Brett?
I'm here.
Sweet. Jerry ran away because he was a punk. What about you, Clay? Are you back?
All right. How have you got me now?
Gosh, thank goodness. Goodness gracious.
It reconnected me twice, and both times, man, I had no audio when I came back. The third time was a charm. So
you know what? You just made my job so much fucking harder. I mean,
see, I don't know if you heard all the crap that he was spewing over here, but he was like, "Clay, bail me out."
I heard that part, but man, it froze up on me, so I missed almost everything leading up to that.
I was saying all kinds of bullshit. So when I was saying, so do you remember there was a I guess he/she was appointed as admiral. I think it was of education or something like that.
Yeah.
I thought that it was the first female admiral, but maybe
it wasn't. Jerry looked it up.
But maybe it was like a star admiral, I know there's different stars.
Anyway, where was that going in terms of the deep state?
I was just kind of saying, like, the deep state is so the deep state used to be a Republican thing where the Democratic Party, like, so if you think of John F. Kennedy, Democrat, very hard Democrat, was very against the whole CIA, FBI, and now it's kind of switched, and I think a lot of people on the left, on the Democratic side, are seeing that a lot of the ideals that the Democratic Party have held for the last 20, 30 years. Our live show looks like it's going, but
here's what I would say. Let me just stop.
It seems like it's switching.
Here's what I say. I think if they are true deep state, they don't matter who, right or left, Republican or Democrat, who's in office.
Well,
that's the whole point of the deep state.
And I will say,
what do you think, Clay?
I think I understand where Brett's going. Where
see, you were wanting him to help you.
Well, in that, I think, and I may be wrong in interpreting this, but are you saying that the Republicans are kind of switching to the party that the Democrats used to be with regard to how? Yeah,
they represent the common man, really. I mean, that's what the Democratic Party used to be.
Yeah, they used to represent the working man, and the Republicans were the party of the war hawks, the neocons, and all that. Now the neocons are all coming over to the Democratic side, And
And I
there
really
is
think Trump changed that.
there is a polar shift that's going on. I do agree with that. I do agree with the political shift. We need to see where it's going though, because I'm not entirely sure where it's going, and I don't believe it's completely settled out yet either. I think there's going to be a lot more people that switch sides, the Tulsi Gabbards and the RFK Juniors, the Cheneys moving over. I think there's going to be a lot of resettlement before we see how everything settles out.
Well, I think that's the way of things.
Yeah.
The more things stay the same, the more they change.
And honestly, I'm in favor. I mean,
Here's the thing.
Talking.
Oh, go ahead,
Go-
Jerry.
no,
No,
go
no, I've talked enough.
You were talking about Trump and the deep state. We all know that Trump truly popularized the term deep state.
Yeah.
And before 2016, he was claiming that the deep state was trying to prevent him from being elected. During his presidency, he said numerous
there's some
times
proof
that they were
of it.
working against him.
Yeah.
Well, okay, you say there's proof. Hold on. Let's talk about the proof. Shortly after that he was elected president, he continued to talk about it. He appointed a special prosecutor, his administration did, John Durham, to investigate what he claimed was the crime of the century, right?
Right.
Now, which was the conspiracy to sink his 2016 campaign by the deep state.
Right.
John Durham had a 3-year probe.
Right.
What were the results? Let's talk about the proof. What were the results of John Durham's 3-year investigation into the deep state? Pardon?
Didn't find it.
Well, he found a little bit. He accused 3 people. He brought criminal charges against 3 people. 2 were found not guilty. 1 was actually found guilty. That was a former FBI attorney that was sentenced to probation for altering an email that was included in a June 2017 application for surveillance. That was the only thing he found. So if we're saying that there was, and he said it in 2016, he said in 2020, he's still saying it this election. Last weekend, he was still saying there's a deep state that was trying to prevent him from being elected. When he was president, he appointed a commission and they found nothing.
Right. I want to say 3 things.
Sure.
First, the whole thing in 2016 was that, well, Trump only won because Russia interfered with our election.
No, that was.
But that was the thing. Everybody on the Democratic Party was saying that in 2016. What do you mean?
Everyone in the Democratic Party was not saying that.
Yes, they were.
No, they were.
They
Absolutely
were
not.
100% saying
Everyone
that.
on the Democratic Party.
Pretty much everyone. I'm sure there was one person that was like, you know what? There was nothing. Trump is won out but everybody else was saying, yeah. Even Hillary Clinton was saying, oh well, Russia was colluding in our election. They were interfering with our election.
Everyone still says that Russia interfered with that election, 2020, and
There's
this
no
one.
proof.
There is tons of proof.
No proof. The second thing, there's no proof. Their second thing was the Hunter Biden
Hold on.
laptop.
You do
was
realize I'm going to send you an
Russian
email.
information or misinformation, and the Hunter laptop came out to be proven. And Trump, they say that the Hunter
Biden
Biden laptop
was proven to have nothing that they alleged it had on it.
Okay.
It did have everything, but the Hunter Biden laptop caused a 7-point difference in the election, which would have won Trump the presidency.
Okay.
And over 50 FBI officials said that they believed that the Hunter Biden laptop was a Russian misinformation. And
Okay, hang on one second.
What?
yes,
You do
let's-
realize I'm
yes,
going to send another
that's
email.
treason.
Listen,
No, I'm
listen.
100%
Hey,
agree with whatever
Wait a
you're
minute.
saying,
Hold on.
that's
What's
crazy.
treason?
Hang
The
on.
fact that you are saying that it is one thing and it is the other.
Hang on.
I'm committing treason by claiming what?
By claiming that.
Hang on.
No,
Hang on. Let me interject a little smoothness in here. Clay, help me out. Here's the thing. While I understand what he's saying,
Really? Please explain.
no, well, let me hang on. What he's also failing to mention is that on the flip side of that was the Russian dossier that I think
The
you're
Steele
confusing.
dossier?
The Steele dossier, which was completely fabricated, it's been proven, was the one thing. The Hunter laptop had nothing to do with President Trump losing the election.
Thank you.
If anything, the Steele dossier did, and that could be where the confusion is coming. And that was proven to be some sort of Russian interference and or promoted by someone within the deep
But it had
state.
nothing to do with Biden or his son's laptop? Or...
Absolutely. The laptop was a whole different issue.
So what the hell am I committing treason on? That's what... Explain that to me.
Well, you're not. Clay, tell us. Take us home, man. Take us to a place that's safe.
Guys, y'all,
Grant's had too much bourbon.
Y'all have made it very difficult to take us to a safe place, but leaving all this stuff just laying on the table, man.
Yeah, well, go ahead. Feast, my man. Feast. That's why you're here.
Well, let's see here. I'm trying to find it. It seems like in my research, I'd found a New York Times article, and I cannot find it now, but they were basically saying that there was a Senate Homeland Security committee that had, and admittedly it was a Republican-led committee that had found that the deep state was actually trying to interfere with Trump's election and administration. But for some reason, I can't find. I'll have to go back.
I think you might be referring to Miles Taylor.
Maybe.
The New York Times they published what originally was an anonymous article, and it turned out to be from Miles Taylor, who was a Donald Trump employee. And most people said that was obvious evidence of a deep state. Here's one of the people that Trump appointed. He was the Department of Homeland Security Chief of Staff. And he's obviously against Trump.
The whole thing with the Department of Homeland Security is, to me, that opened carte blanche the CIA on American people. And what I mean by that is, did that allow the CIA to do CIA shit to American people? No, but it taught the Homeland Security very quickly put on the learning of the CIA and turned what the CIA was doing to our enemies onto American people. And the Department of Homeland Security, which for the statement I'm about to make alone will probably preclude me from ever becoming president of the United States. But the Department of Homeland Security is not a good thing. From its very beginnings in the Patriot Act, who was written by all these congressmen as a result of 9/11, with the deep state deep into their ears writing this to give them as much power as they could possibly do in the name of safety and security for the American citizens. Would you disagree, Clay?
Yeah, no, not necessarily. No.
Good. Neither one of us are going to be president.
Well, ever since 9/11, we give up so many freedoms in the name of some name. It was not. We didn't get security. Go ahead, Clay.
No, I was just agreeing with both of you guys. That the entire world changed, and America changed for the worse after 9/11. There's no doubt we are less free than we were.
Right.
And not safer. It would be different if we were suddenly way safer.
No. Yeah. No,
I don't think it would be different.
Almost.
At least there'd be a reason.
None of the mitigation efforts that we have put in place, especially the TSA and all, none of this has made anybody any safer. No. They haven't stopped shit. So
when we flew to our cruise, it was a whole thing. I hadn't flown since 9/11 because I typically drive to.
You've never flown since 9/11?
Not commercially. I've flown my plane. I've flown.
No, I mean, you've never flown commercially? No.
Yeah, probably not.
Wow.
Well, once, but it hadn't even ramped up to where it is now. But here's the thing.
Wow.
I like to drive. I like part
That's
of the
crazy. So every cruise you've been on, you've drove.
part of that
That's
fun
awesome.
for me
Yeah,
is
no,
the
I'm
drive.
I'm not judging you.
I like enjoy
crazy.
the stops
That's crazy.
along the way and
Yeah.
enjoy
No,
meeting
that's awesome.
people. and stuff.
That's awesome.
There's no such thing as flyover country for me. I am a man of the
I
people.
love flying. I'm not just.
So does Robin. She
I
loves
love
it.
flying.
And you guys have also, I think, stopped off in New Orleans several times, spent time there prior to.
No, it's awesome.
Big part.
Yeah.
But the point is, this last vacation we did fly.
First time since 9/11.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
That's crazy. That's
and
awesome.
so we go
So
through
you got
the
a
thing.
really good.
We go through the thing, and I forgot about the whole taking your shoes off. I didn't have socks on, so I had to walk through barefoot. Big deal. But my mother-in-law got stopped for a thorough inspection, and they didn't touch her. They just waved the wand. But
I get
I'm
that
like,
every time
why?
I travel.
Of all the sorry, Clay, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I get the thorough treatment every time I travel.
Well, that's because you're on like 73 lists.
I'm on all the lists, and yeah, they're sitting there just rubbing their hands, waiting for me to get up to the front of the line so they can put me through the.
I'm pretty sure after this episode,
If you
haven't
been hit in the groin aggressively by the TSA, then you're not doing something right.
Okay, I gotta say, and I apologize, it's getting late, but I gotta say, have you guys seen the video of the guy coming through TCA or TSA, and they're doing the pat down, and they're like, "What's this weapon?" And he's like, "It's just me." And I'm not going to get into details.
Right.
Encourage you to watch the video. And he's like, "No way." And he pats him down. He's like, "Oh, yeah, that is just you." And they let him walk on through.
I got a supervisor. TSA supervisor called on me because when they were giving me the treatment, just before the TSA agent put his hands on me, I said, "Before you start, I just want to let you know my safe word is Nutter Butter." And he looked at me and said, "Excuse me?" And I said, "My safe word's Nutter Butter." I said, "I think this thing's about to get a little intimate, and I just want you to know if it goes too far. If I say Nutter Butter, then you need to stop." And he said, I don't think you're very funny." And I said, "I don't think you're very good at what you do." As I said, as a matter of fact, I think you're an effing joke. And he got on his microphone and called for a supervisor right away. It was beautiful. It was
Davis.
beautiful. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh man, I wish I could have seen that.
Oh yeah, it was great. You should see me. My kids get mad at me if they're not in the car whenever if I get pulled over by the police. Like one time I was going to pick up my son from work and I got pulled over for a license plate light that was out, and I said, "Well, son, I'm going to be a little late. I just got pulled over." And my son was like, "Oh, damn, man, I wish I could be there," because he knows that cop was not going to get off easy. It was going to be just
You
awful
need to
for
drive
him.
around Louisville and let Nick pull you over.
Yeah. That would be great. That would be
Oh
fun.
man, can you imagine getting pulled up by Nick?
Oh, jeez.
Oh man, Nick would have me laughing, man. He's such a funny kid, man.
Oh, dude,
Such
I
a
love
funny
Nick.
guy, man.
Honestly, and here's the thing: it's like you think about cops, and it's like if anybody was going to be a cop, Nick is the dude I would want to be a cop.
Dude, that has got to be, and I've said it. Jerry has been here. You've been here. I don't know if there's a harder, more thankless job on the entire planet than being a police officer.
Mhm.
Thankless?
Oh yeah,
You
because
think?
not for people that like us that appreciate what he represents.
Even then,
I honestly,
not enough.
I don't think there's a harder. I don't think there's a harder job.
If you are the guy getting pulled over, very rarely are you. "Oh, well, thank you for pulling me over." You know what I'm saying?
For sure, yeah.
It is and for people to have a mentality to be able to deal with that.
And in today's world, with so many people looking at them the way a few assholes have made it to where the public looks at them so suspicious.
Yeah. And
that's the problem. Is like
when Nick first came to me and said, "Hey, I think I want to be a cop," I was like, I thought about it. It's the same way when my other son Peyton told me he wanted to join the military. I thought about it. And my thought was ultimately the same in both cases. I want you to be the guy that people can depend on.
Well, and that's a credit on you, really, as a father, because I think of, and I don't know Peyton as much as I do Nick. Nick is literally if I think of like somebody I would want to be a cop, Nick is one of those.
He's got the mentality. He's got the personality. He's got the patience.
He's got everything. Yeah. It's like I don't consider him as like. But if I was going to be pulled over by somebody, it would be I would want it to be Nick.
He's also big enough that you're going to have to think twice about talking shit because he's a big dude.
Like, yeah, sure. Yeah, no. Dude,
I'm so beyond. I'm jealous. I don't care.
You should be proud of him, dude.
I'm beyond proud. I'm also jealous because he has such an addiction to the gym, and I'm like, because he's like my absolute clone, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, damn, I could look like that if I just had a little dedication.
Yeah, you have stupid genetics.
Anywho, guys, let's wrap up the deep state, and I'll give each of you guys. First, we're going to vote. Do we believe that it needs more or less coverage, as we do here on Newsworthy? Secondly, I'd like to hear everybody's just wrap up of what they believe, if they believe there's an actual deep state and what it entails. We'll start with you, Brett.
So, first off, I do believe that it deserves more coverage. Second off, I think that, I think it 100%. I think that because I've seen the way the government operates, I've seen the way that even government appointed employees, they will rely on the expertise of those who have been there a while, and even though I'm at the state level, I can see it translating to the federal level. I just see it. So even if we got a new president, we're going from Democrat to Republican president. Whoever he appoints is going to rely on the expertise of those who have been there, who have been in those positions of upper management, who are not government appointed. I just see it. I just see it being a thing where those people are going to have the ears of those who are in power.
Perfect. Jerry.
It's unanimous, and I don't think there's any way to possibly say there's not a deep state when you look at the definition that we finally ended up with. And anytime, should there be more coverage? Anytime you have a group of unelected, which means basically people who are not going to be held accountable, it's debatable how much power they actually have. We debated that some, but no matter what, we know it's a ton of power.
It's influential.
Absolutely, and influence, absolutely, Clay. And that to me means it absolutely needs more coverage. And this is not something we're ever going to fix. It'll always, like we were saying, in some aspects of the military, you got to have the experience. We know it. So you can't fire them all. But yet when the new guy comes in, there's so many people listening to him that getting their ear. It's a problem that'll never go away, and it absolutely needs more coverage.
I don't think it needs to go away. I don't think there's a fix to make it go away.
I agree.
I didn't mean step. No. So I also agree that it needs more coverage, and it will need more coverage as long as our government exists as it currently is.
Which I hope it always does.
Right. I still believe by every fiber of me that we are in the greatest country God's ever given me. And are you going to have these people that kind of exist, kind of have the authority, and even if it's not authority in the sense that we know authority as, having the ability to bend somebody's ear is a type of authority.
An influence.
and influence. And does that make it right? No. But I would hope that our elected officials recognize this,
Right.
and is immediately see that it's being abused,
Right.
squash it.
Right.
But I'm going to give the absolute last word today to our honored guest, Clay Davis.
100%.
Guys, I also agree it definitely needs more coverage. And to kind of dovetail off of what Jerry was saying, you know, it's not going to go away. The deep state won't go away. How could we get rid of an entity that could literally ruin you or destroy you if you crossed it?
Yeah.
I mean,
Sure.
they hold that kind of power.
Chuck Schumer said that best.
They have the dirt on not just all the officials, but thanks to the NSA, they have all the damn dirt on all of us too. They know what when we're going to Pornhub, man, they know what we like to watch.
Can I just ask? I know we're running long on time. So what if so how would we even get rid of this?
You don't.
I can't even think of a way that
you
can.
don't.
Because
you don't.
You have to have that expertise. As a leader coming into position that you have no experience with, you have to have the expertise.
The only way
to rely on. You have to have it.
As a guy that has spent an insurmountable amount of time trying to figure out how to dismantle the current government that we have, this one aspect of the government, I don't even have a way to approach how to dismantle this particular aspect of government. I just don't know how to even approach it. Right. And I spend a lot of time thinking about how to shrink and make our government smaller, if not entirely gone. And this is one part. I don't have an answer. I don't think there's an answer for it.
I'm the same way. I thought about this a lot just prepping for this episode. It's just like, I don't think that you can get rid of it. You can't.
The only thing that you can do as a citizen to eliminate it is to go live in a country and renounce your citizenship of it. But then what are you giving up?
You're at the liberty of whatever government.
I don't disagree.
You know what I mean? Like,
but
if you go to Africa, like you're at the liberty of the African government, which is super corrupt.
The CIA is so entrenched in Africa right now. You're screwed there too. So
right, I'm sure
you're screwed.
So, it's just like you're never gonna get away. America is so powerful. You're never gonna get away from the influence.
As Jerry always says.
What say you?
Jerry always says, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yep, sure. It does.
And that is the deep state. I think that's the best way of describing that, to be honest.
Especially CIA, NSA, the intelligence community.
Mm-hmm.
Dwight Eisenhower, with his warning to the world, was spot on. And shame on us for not heeding that guy's warning. He was pretty smart, though. Guys, Clay, again, always an amazing episode with you. We love having you on the show.
Absolutely.
Back I
love coming on here, guys, and I really, really appreciate y'all inviting me back. It's always an honor to be here, and I'm really glad Brett could be with us this time. It was a great discussion and another banger episode, guys.
I love it. Clay should just be here.
Move him in.
Just move him on in. Yeah. I got an extra room, Clay. All right, guys. We appreciate you. You guys, let's see here. Let's do this, shall we?
What a great conversation. But we're not done yet. Stick around through these very important ads for an awesome bonus story. JT's Way is a Christ-centered, nonprofit organization with a call to help hurting families during the loss of a child. At JT's Way, they assist families grieving from the loss of a child through assistance with things like funeral expenses, emotional support, guidance through the grief process, and help in their healing journey. While paying for funeral expenses, they help navigate picking a funeral home, burial plot, or cremation services, and provide families with grief counseling resources. JT was 17 years old when he died unexpectedly in an automobile accident. He was a senior in high school and a student in the automotive class. JT loved cars and music, and he took his role of friend very seriously and made sure to make friends wherever he went. Their mission at JT's Way is to minister to families by financially assisting and connecting them with their local resources. These resources will assist in the financial and emotional burden of bearing a child. Their aim is to aid in the healing process for parents and families, and these resources include grief counseling and parent-sibling groups. The outside world doesn't stop, but we can tell you from experience that a parent's world certainly does. In a time of desperate hopelessness, JT's Way provides hope. If you want to help support JT's Way in their mission, please reach out to them at www.jtsway.com. JT would often say, "Let me challenge you to make a friend, be a friend, and most importantly..."
And Jerry, if you can't see the light,
Be the light.
What a great conversation.
Hi, this is Ed Locke with USA Mortgage. Buying your first home can be overwhelming, but here are 5 tips to make the process go smoother. Number 1, find a lender, me, Ed Locke, that can answer any questions you might have and help you get pre-approved. There are multiple options available based on your situation. Number 2, work with a real estate agent you can trust. Number 3, don't rush the process. Take your time and know that the process could take some time. Number 4, consider all the costs. Number 5, get a home inspection and review it with your realtor. Keep these tips in mind, budget for yourself, and you'll be that much closer to making your dream of homeownership a reality. So reach out to me at 502-680-0953. NMLS ID 448908, DAS Acquisition Company, LLC, doing business as USA Mortgage, NMLS ID 227262. This is not a commitment to lend. Additional terms and conditions apply. USA Mortgage is an equal housing opportunity.
If you would like to share suggestions for future episodes, or simply tell us how much you love or hate us, reach out to us via email at newsworthywithsteveandjerry@gmail.com or text us at area code 540-709-1318. And now, back to the story.
guys, I got to be honest. Sorry for messing it up. But I got not one, but 2 amazing bonus stories because they're kind of short today, but
Nice.
both are very appropriate. So obviously, I just came off a cruise. So this one is directly as a result of that. So the Pacific Princess, famously known as the Love Boat, during its feature in the popular TV series during the 1970s and 80s, was built in 1971 under the original name, the Sea Venture. It was acquired by Princess Cruises in 1975 and renamed the Pacific Princess. The ship gained widespread recognition and became a symbol of the emerging cruise industry, largely because of its portrayal in the hit show, which aired for nearly a decade and made cruising more popular to the public. After its retirement from Princess Cruises all the way in 2002, the vessel passed through various owners, including Quail Cruises. However, due to the aging structure and cost of the repairs, the ship was finally decommissioned. In 2013, the Pacific Princess was sent to Turkey, where it had started to be dismantled for scrap, marking the end of an era for such an amazing cruise ship. Over 30 years, the ship was in business.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, crazy, and that's unheard of for a cruise ship today.
30 years.
Yeah.
Holy.
So
Sorry, what year was it?
1971, it was.
Wow. So
Yeah.
2001?
Yeah.
Which one was the man? Sorry.
Yeah. So the next story, if you and I say this story, I wanted to bring it up because of the Dodgers' final win of the World Series. Go Dodgers! You don't are you thumbing down?
Because they paid for a World Series. Sorry, they paid for World Series.
Are you a Yankees fan?
I'm not a I'm a Royals fan, but also
Even worse. Anyway, we're not talking. So if you're a Phillies fan, like my son Nick, we talked about earlier, I got a story for you. Richie Ashburn hit a foul ball that struck a young lady, Alice Roth, squarely in the face, breaking her nose. The game was paused as medics came in and attended to Roth. As they were carrying her away on a stretcher, play was resumed, and Ashburn fouled again off the very first pitch that was thrown to him. This foul subsequently struck Roth again as she was being carried off on a stretcher. Roth was the wife of a sports editor, of the Philadelphia Bulletin, who was there with her 2 grandsons. The second foul ball broke a bone in her knee, and there was blood everywhere. So this man literally 2 foul balls and destroyed this young lady.
And made a shit ton of money.
Well, we appreciate you. That was our bonus story.
And Jerry, if you can't see the light,
Be the light.